Imagine a moment so terrifying, so impactful, that you're absolutely certain you'd remember every single detail. The face of the person involved, the events leading up to it, the feeling in your gut. You're asked to identify someone, and with unwavering confidence, you point. That's him, you say. Your testimony becomes the cornerstone of a legal case, a powerful narrative that can sway a jury, determine a fate. But what if that certainty, that crystal clear memory, was wrong? What if the very act of recalling, of identifying, had inadvertently led you astray, or worse, convicted an innocent person? Welcome to Mind Matters, where we explore the fascinating and sometimes unsettling world of human psychology. Today, we're delving into one of the most critical and often misunderstood areas in the justice system, the psychology behind the unreliable witness. It's a topic that constantly trends in legal and psychological circles, not because it's new, but because its impact is so profound and enduring. We'll uncover why our memories, those personal libraries of our lives, are far more fragile and malleable than we often assume, and how this vulnerability has devastating consequences for justice. For decades, the legal system has placed immense faith in eyewitness testimony. It feels intuitively right, doesn't it, to trust someone who was there, who saw it all? But scientific research paints a very different picture. Human memory isn't a flawless recording device, like a perfect video camera capturing every frame with precision. Instead, it's a reconstructive process, much like piecing together a puzzle with some missing pieces, where our brains fill in the gaps based on our experiences, expectations, and even suggestions. This inherent fallibility is a cornerstone of why witness accounts can be so easily distorted. Let's break down some of the key psychological phenomena at play here, starting with the very nature of memory itself. Our memories are not static, they are dynamic. They can be altered, subtly changed, or even entirely fabricated over time without us even realizing it. This is famously illustrated by the misinformation effect, a concept championed by cognitive psychologist Elizabeth Loftus. She demonstrated how post-event information, like subsequent conversations with others, media reports, or even leading questions from an interviewer, can unintentionally integrate non-existent details into a witness's memory. It's like someone subtly editing the story you tell, and eventually you believe the edited version is the original. Then there's the profound impact of stress and trauma. Imagine being in a terrifying situation, a robbery, an assault. Our bodies kick into fight or flight mode. While this response is crucial for survival, it can severely impair our ability to accurately perceive and recall details. We might develop a narrow, tunnel-like focus on the most immediate threat, neglecting peripheral information that could be vital for identification. A powerful example of this is the weapon focus effect. If a weapon is present during a crime, witnesses often concentrate intensely on that weapon. Their attention, and therefore their memory, is diverted away from crucial details like the perpetrator's facial features. It's an evolutionary instinct, focus on the danger, but it comes at a cost for accurate recall.
Beyond these dramatic effects, several cognitive biases and perceptual factors further complicate matters. Cross-racial identification, for instance, consistently shows lower accuracy. We are generally less accurate at identifying individuals from a different racial group than our own. Similarly, environmental factors like poor lighting, significant distance from an event, or the rapid pace of an incident can all hinder the initial perception and subsequent memory formation. Even age variables play a role, with both very young and elderly witnesses sometimes demonstrating reduced reliability, often showing high confidence in inaccurate memories. And then there's transference, where a witness might mistakenly identify an individual seen previously in an unrelated context, perhaps someone who merely looks familiar but isn't the actual culprit. Perhaps one of the most critical and counterintuitive findings is the confidence-accuracy disconnect. A witness's confidence in their memory or identification is often a surprisingly poor predictor of its actual accuracy. This is especially true when confidence is assessed after the initial identification, as confidence can grow over time, bolstered by external validation or retelling the story, even if the memory itself is flawed. A highly confident witness can be entirely incorrect, yet their certainty can be incredibly persuasive to a jury. It's a powerful illusion that needs careful consideration. To truly grasp the stakes of these psychological phenomena, let's turn to a real-life case study that encapsulates the devastating consequences of mistaken identity, the story of Ronald and Jennifer Thompson.
In 1984, Jennifer Thompson was a college student who was brutally raped. She bravely helped police create a composite sketch, participated in a photo lineup, and then a live lineup. In each step, she identified Ronald Cotton as her attacker. Her certainty was absolute. Cotton was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Jennifer Thompson became a powerful witness, steadfast in her conviction. For years, she lived with the trauma, certain that justice had been served. Ronald Cotton, meanwhile, maintained his innocence from behind bars. It wasn't until 1995, thanks to advancements in DNA testing, that the truth finally emerged. DNA evidence definitively proved that Ronald Cotton was innocent. The true perpetrator was a man named Bobby Poole, who had coincidentally testified against Cotton in his original trial for an unrelated crime. This case, and countless others like it, powerfully illustrate the real-world impact of eyewitness misidentification, which the Innocence Project has identified as the leading cause of wrongful convictions, often overturned by DNA evidence. These stories underscore why figures like Elizabeth Loftus and organizations like the Innocence Project are so crucial in bringing scientific understanding to the forefront of legal practice. So, what can be done? Psychologists distinguish between two types of variables affecting eyewitness testimony: estimator variables and system variables. Estimator variables are factors beyond the control of the legal system, like the lighting at the crime scene, the duration of the event, or the witness's emotional state. These are things we can't change, but understanding them helps us estimate reliability. System variables, however, are factors that can be controlled by the criminal justice system. These include police interview techniques and lineup procedures. This is where the efforts for reform are concentrated. The National Academy of Sciences, in its comprehensive 2014 report, outlined scientific recommendations for improving eyewitness identification reliability, focusing precisely on these controllable system variables.
The journey from scientific discovery to legal reform is often slow and fraught with debate. One primary controversy revolves around the admissibility and weight of eyewitness testimony in court. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence of its flaws, it remains incredibly persuasive to juries, often central to legal proceedings. This creates a profound disconnect between how jurors perceive eyewitness testimony, often equating confidence with accuracy, and the scientific understanding of memory. A major point of discussion centers on implementing scientifically backed reforms. These include blind lineup administration, where the officer administering the lineup is unaware of the suspect's identity, preventing unintentional suggestion. Another reform is sequential lineups, presenting suspects one at a time rather than simultaneously, which reduces the tendency for witnesses to pick the person who best fits their memory rather than the person who is their memory. Thorough documentation of identification procedures and explicit statements of witness confidence captured immediately after the identification are also vital. And cognitive interview techniques designed to maximize accurate recall while minimizing contamination are increasingly being adopted. There's also an ongoing debate about the extent to which psychological experts on eyewitness memory should be permitted to testify in court. Such experts can inform judges and juries about factors affecting accuracy, helping to bridge that critical gap between scientific reality and jury perception. The future outlook for addressing unreliable eyewitness testimony is characterized by a continued push to bridge the gap between scientific understanding and legal practice. Organizations like the Innocence Project, alongside persistent academic research from prominent psychologists like Daniel Schachter, continually intensify calls for legal and procedural reforms. The goal is clear: to implement scientifically validated system variables that minimize errors, enhance the accuracy of eyewitness identification, and thereby safeguard against wrongful convictions. The story of Ronald Cotton and Jennifer Thompson has a remarkable epilogue. After Cotton's exoneration, Jennifer Thompson courageously met with him. Not only did she offer him a profound apology, but they have since become powerful advocates together, traveling the country to educate others about the dangers of mistaken identity and the need for reform. Their journey from victim and falsely accused to partners in justice is a testament to the human capacity for forgiveness and the critical importance of continuously striving for a more accurate and just legal system. Understanding the fragility of human memory isn't about eroding trust, but about building a stronger, more informed foundation for justice. By acknowledging memory's flaws, we can implement smart, evidence-based practices that protect the innocent and ensure the guilty are held accountable. Thank you for joining us on Mind Matters. We'll see you next time.